won. No. Did we? Didn't win a game on Saturday. We won on Sunday. We won games on Sunday, but I wasn't there.
That's okay. Well, I mean, maybe you've got lots of basketball and lots of time to catch up, I suppose. So I'm glad that it whet your appetite for the NBL 1 season that is finally going to kick off this weekend. Have you got any games to commentate this weekend?
I have games to commentate every weekend, Squin. Every weekend this season. Work permission. So yes, I will be at Sutherland Basketball Stadium for the Crosstown Clash, round 1, same as last year, Sutherland v Penrith.
Oh, awesome. What time are the games kicking off down there at the Shark Tank?
Probably 5 and 7, just like every other game is at the Shark Tank. At least I'll be there at 10:30 in the morning, so I don't really need to know what time it starts.
Oh, yeah, fair enough. You're part of the hardworking crew that gets the games together there on game day.
Yes.
Very good. Tell me about that T-shirt you're wearing. All I can see is horned frogs, and it sounds familiar, but I might need to jog my memory.
So Horned Frogs are TCU. So they toured Australia a long time ago. And they played out at Mount Druitt at Kevin Bett Stadium. And I went out there, and their head coach, Reagan Peebley, gave me a T-shirt. So,
that's really nice of him.
Yeah. So that was, so they knew me from my work with the pick and roll. And, so they gave me a T-shirt, which was very nice.
Wonderful. And, the TCU women's team have just entered the Sweet 16 in the NCAAW March Madness for the first time in history. I'm really excited for them to see how far they can go. Have you been able to catch any of March Madness so far, Lockie?
A lot. Yes, I am very well placed near the TV at work with the remote. So I'm flicking as I work between ESPN and ESPN2.
Oh, yeah. It must be nice because while I have 2 monitors at work as well, I still haven't quite figured out how to get past the government security settings to be able to stream at work. So I might have to find a way to do it on my phone instead.
The joys of working in the sporting industry, they really don't mind if you're watching.
Yeah, the perks are unlimited. Anyway, let's get into this episode. This week we'll be featuring the remaining rosters for the women's competition for 2025. This will be our last episode featuring the rosters as well, because as I just previously mentioned, NBL 1 East will tip off this Saturday. And so once round 1 is well and truly done, eScot Game will resume regular programming with game reviews, previews, and interviews as well. So, Lockie, how are you feeling ahead of this episode? The last 8 women's teams we need to feature, and thankfully, in between recordings, it looks like some more announcements have been made, even up to pretty much the last minute, it looks like.
Yes, because I had to send you 2 extra emails for graphics, and then a couple more men's signings happened in the interim. So yes, teams are getting them out thick and fast. Yes, I'm very glad that we held these teams till later and allowed them a bit more time, and the majority have delivered because we've got a lot of much fuller rosters than we had a couple of weeks ago, which is very good to see.
So what's the men's signings that I've missed out on in the last, say, 2 to 4 hours?
So Illawarra have announced an import, Matt Mims from South Dakota State. He's a shooter and a defender, maybe a bit of 3-and-D, judging by the description of him. And then Maitland have doubled up on the Parsons factor. They officially announced Tom Parsons.
Yeah, very good. Double trouble. All right, great to see. And interestingly, signings are still coming out in the week leading up to the first round. And I mean, I think in between episodes as well, Hornsby have started to announce players nearly every day in the last week or so.
They certainly have. It's I mean, if you're at the Blitz, it's probably not news to you, but for anyone who didn't go and swelter in the Penrith Heat. Plenty of news.
Yes, excellent. All right, let's get stuck into it. So, as I mentioned, it's going to be an episode where we feature the last 8 teams of the women's competition. We're going to start with Bankstown Bruins. I'm going to put up the 2024 season stats and facts. Lockie, take us through it.
So 4-16, I think Bankstown, by their own admission, would say by their own admission that they were well below par for the roster they had last year. 4-16, finishing second last, did not qualify for the finals, obviously. Even had, South Korean Olympian Park Ji-hyun on their roster for a considerable part of the season. She ended up leading in all 3 stats. But, I mean, turned the ball over too much, didn't rebound that well. Defensive rating wasn't that crash hot. And while their 3-point rate was high and their 3-point percentage was decent in terms of the league, you probably still want to be shooting a bit better from 3-point range if you're going to be shooting that many of them. So, a lot of change to come, and I think they are. I mean, we know they've signed a couple of new imports, and we'll see those on the next page. But yeah, I think they had the pieces to do better than they did last season, and I think that probably about sums it up. Is to have, they had Cappy, they had Park Ji-hyun, they had Kiana Davis-White, they had most of players who are coming back that we'll see, and they still only managed to put 4 wins on the board. So I think, improvement to come for the Bankstown Bruins.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Probably a team, that we would have expected a higher place on the ladder by the end of the season. Was this a team, though, that was kind of shrouded in injury, and maybe that would have made a bit of an impact on the team dynamics and chemistry on court?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it never really got a chance to all come together for an extended period, which when you're fighting amongst that mid-pack, once you slip back, it's hard to get back up the table. So yes, there were problems, issues that affected chemistry, dynamic, momentum, but still four wins, not a great showing, unfortunately, but that just means time to move up.
Yeah, and speaking of, rooms to improve, offensive and defensive rebounding rate, as you mentioned. So speaking of, let's have a look at the roster, because it looks like perhaps in terms of recruiting, a new head coach for the Bankstown Bruins women's program, Lauren Curtin. Looks like she's done some great recruiting here to help solve those rebounding problems with the 2 imports in Davida Dale and Jada Rice.
Yes, definitely. I mean, Davida, yes, she's known for, well, I mean, she can help them on the defensive rebounding end, because they won't have to rebound as much because she'll be getting so many steals to start with. But yeah, we know she can rebound as well. And Jada Rice was putting up 11 and 11 for Bankstown, for Geelong last season, after coming over from Norwood, where she won a Central Championship. And Park Ji-hyun, she was their leader with 8.4 rebounds per game. Cappy Morrow had 6.9, but neither of them played the full complement of games. So they can have Jada Rice and Davida Dale both on court for a full 20-game slate. That those rebounding numbers are going to go way up, because we know Davida can grab a board pretty well for a guard.
Yeah, definitely. And for those that may not know, Davida Dale has been playing over in the WSLB, which is the professional league in the UK. She's been playing for Manchester, and she recorded a quadruple double against Durham during the recent season. She had 12 points, 13 rebounds, 14 assists, and 10 steals. I don't think I've lived long enough to personally witness a quadruple double, so that's some pretty outrageous statistics. Hopefully she'll be able to transfer that into the NBL One East for Bankstown, especially I think she's averaging, she averaged 9.6 rebounds per game when she was with the Comets last season. 13 is a slight improvement from that. So yeah, I think she's certainly going to help the Bankstown Bruins in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
and,
definitely.
And sorry, you mentioned as well, Jada Rice, as you said, played Norwood NBL 1 Central and Geelong NBL 1 South, and now coming to East. I mean, is it too soon to kind of hope that she's going to be someone that will play nearly every conference? Because it's only North and West to go.
I mean, if she performs well for Bankstown, I'd much rather her stay in East.
Fair. I mean, I can see a few teams that could value her strengths up here in North as well, but we won't get into that. Let's just see how she goes for the East and be happy that she's here, like you mentioned. But a couple of very important local players have re-signed for the Bruins this season as well.
Yeah, so I mean, they brought back Kiana Davis-White, Lily Austin, Sienna Tutani, and the two Dunlops, most of whom, I mean, Tutani started most games. Austin started just over half the games. So, and Kiana was coming off the bench, but I mean, last year their imports were pretty front court focus. You know, Brittany Wright, Cappy, and then Park. But I mean, we've all seen what Kiana Davis-White can do. Well, mostly we've just seen that one highlight of her flinging the ball at the backboard and it going in. But that's been making us rounds on the socials lately. But I mean, she averaged 4.7 rebounds per game in 20 minutes of action per game last year. So, you know, you take that up to her. If she plays more minutes this year, she'll definitely be helping them on the boards as well.
And we've just got our friend Mal from Ball Don't Lie podcast, who covers the NBL One North competition and obviously other local competitions, mostly NBL and WNBL, just saying we will take her in the North for sure, referring to Jada Rice. So the seeds have been planted quite proactively for Jada Rice to play in the North. And we've got Lockie Everett saying as well, just stay out of it, Mal. Fair call. And Bankstown, like we mentioned, announcing the two big imports initially for this women's roster for 2025. A lot of key pieces in their local roster. Is it safe to say or safe to expect that a lot of the other local talent that we saw last season are going to return?
I would hope so. I would hope to see probably the younger talent. I mean, I would love to see Bree go around again. But that's just, I mean, that's probably aging myself as well. To see some of these older names go around again. But I mean, it would be, I mean, you'd have to fully expect some of these younger names to go around again. Maybe Oluwapu, Jennifer Miley. But we'll see. It's only 4 days away.
Yeah, and I'm really excited for Coach Lauren to sink her teeth into this job as well. She has a wealth of coaching experience, especially a lot of local women's basketball, you know, very successful with the New South Wales Metro teams as well. So, yeah, best of luck to her, and we're very excited to see how Bankstown are going to end up this season.
Yeah, well, I talked to Lauren at the Blitz, and I mean, this roster makeup pretty much is what she said she wanted to do, is bring the Bankstown youngsters through and complement that with imports or big name pieces, rather than a lot of big names from other clubs with, you know, a few homegrown players getting a bit of a run. So, and this roster is shaping up to do just that, to give the Bankstown homegrown players a pathway through and give them the best chance to shine, alongside a couple of pieces that are really going to help those younger players on court as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that idea, keeping it local and sustainable as well. for your women's program to come, because if you invest in your local talent and treat them well, they're more likely to stick around and you're more likely to keep having a program.
Exactly.
Very good. All right. Now we're going to go coastal, heading over to the Central Coast Crusaders, some of their 2024 season facts. They ended the season with a 12-8 record, finishing 6th overall. They lost the semi-final to Manly Warringah, unfortunately, with the likes of Leilani Mitchell being their leading scorer, averaging 17.8 points per game. Michaela Domkins averaging 11.7 rebounds per game, and Leilani Mitchell with 6.1 assists per game. Now, this is only specifically in the context of Michaela being Michaela, but 11.7 rebounds per game, I expected that to be higher.
I mean, that's the mark of her as a player, isn't it?
Yeah, when you're like, 11.7 rebounds per game for anyone else is pretty great. But like for Michaela, I'm like, that's still really great. But I was like, I'm pretty sure you can average 20. Like, are you okay? What's going on? No,
Okay?
I kid. But yeah, they had a relatively successful season, like a really great roster. It was Rachel Mayenpar's first season as head coach. She did a great job coaching and recruiting and keeping her crew together, so to speak. So a lot of strengths there, but also the rooms to improve are kind of surprising to me too. What do you think?
It's funnily enough, it's one of the strengths that surprises me in that their 3-point percentage, yes, it was 4th in the league, but I thought a team with Leilani Mitchell and Jazz Forcadilla and Danica Rowe on it would have shot a higher percentage. Leilani shot 33% from 3 last season. Jazz shot 32%. And yet they still finished up 4th in the league. Net rating, it is 4.2 and it's 5th, but the 4 teams above them, there is a massive jump in the net rating. I think the team in 4th was in double figures. So whilst, yes, it's good they're ahead of 11 other teams, there's still a little bit of a jump to the next teams. Room to improve? I don't think much really stands out when I think of Central Coast and who they have on their roster. Maybe, the points off turnovers and the fast break points are both pretty low, but those go hand in hand. And I'm looking at their pace was around middle of the pack, but I don't think a lot really surprises me here, apart from I thought they could shoot it better. And if they shot that percentage last year, I have a feeling things might get better this year. I don't think they could go around 2 seasons in a row with shooters of that caliber shooting that percentage as a team.
Yeah, to be honest, the one that I was most surprised about was fast break points, because it's that Crusaders brand of basketball to be really quick, the run and gun, really always traditionally program that kind of used to champion a strong game in transition. And I know that the personnel they had last season had the potential to do that as well. You could get the likes of Jazz Forcadilla and Danica Rowe in the fast break, and Leilani. Any combination in the fast break is going to be lethal. But yeah, I think that's why I was surprised with the fast break points, or perhaps it was times where maybe they just didn't have as many fast break opportunities, depending on lots of the context of the different games. I think, what were they? Can you remember what their turnover rate? I wonder if the turnover rate maybe played into that a little bit.
Yeah, so their opposition turnover rate was low, which meant they didn't get many points off turnovers, didn't have many fast break points. So
yeah. And so let's have a look at the roster now, how the roster's shaping up here for 2025. Only 5 players officially announced for the Central Coast Crusaders so far. Obviously hoping that they're going to have more than 5 players take the court. And considering that they played at the Blitz, I imagine that they will be. There are 2 players on that TBA list that I'm pretty confident are going to be added to the current roster that's been announced. But so far, the roster's looking pretty good. What do you think?
It is looking really good. And I'm just going to say it's Leilani and Michaela coming back.
It is Leilani and Michaela, yes. I mean, we can confidently say they're going to be playing for Crusaders because we saw footage of them playing at the Blitz. I'm sure you saw them with your own eyes playing at the Blitz.
I did. I even said hi. I said hi to Michaela and had a chat with her at the Blitz.
There you go. So, and look, Michaela and Leilani wouldn't be playing at something like that just for fun unless it was preparing for a season and they were committed. So I think we can say that they're added to the roster. But even with without Leilani and Michaela, we've got Jazz Forcadell coming back, Muffy Loader, another hometown hero returning for 2025, Bronte Moore, cemented hometown hero as well. But Ty Wakeland Gray has come from Rockhampton, so where Muffy played last season up here in NBL 1 North, and she is a hustler. She is great. She is so handy. She hustles a lot of loose balls. She'll be great contesting rebounds. Great kind of in that 3-4 position, but able to guard the post as well. So I'm really excited to see how she can flourish in the East. And then, of course, Jasmine Simmons, who we've talked about in our Believe the Hype episode.
Yes, well, you mentioned the fast break points being low, Squin. If they utilize Jasmine Simmons correctly, that number's not going to be low anymore.
Yeah, when you've got Jazz Forcadell, Muffy Loader, Leilani Mitchell that can all throw a hell of a pass even from 3/4 court, and you've got Jazz Simmons on the fly. I mean, it's just going to make it really easy for them, isn't it? It's going to feel like, hopefully make them feel like it's that local comp where all you need to do is grab a defensive rebound, throw it down the court, and you've got people willing to run for days and make layups.
Although at local comp, it's usually the players who didn't bother getting back on defense that you're throwing it to.
Yeah, look, and I was usually the person more than happy to play defense if I didn't have to run and make fast break layups. If they want to run, they can run. I'm happy to rebound and throw. Stick to your strengths. Yeah. But yes, and we've got Lockie Everett on our Instagram live chat saying, teams like this make my life difficult when creating preview content. I can only imagine the stress of having to find some kind of content when you want to preview a team and only 5 players are announced. But from that TBA list, are we expecting anyone from that TBA list to be announced anytime soon?
Well, Kushler Alpin, I think Casey Quigley and Sammy McCubbin were all named in youth league teams. And I think I saw Casey at the Blitz. Don't remember if I saw... I watched 7 games. Cut me some slack. But I think Christina Moore is headed elsewhere. Watch this space.
Insert eyes emoji here to watch this space. And interestingly, on the outs list, have we Danica Rowe and Gabby Turnbull and Michaela Miller definitely on the outs list because they are playing Waratah League for Central Coast Waves.
Yes,
is that correct?
Yes, it's happened. A few left last season to go play for the Waves, and a few others have decided to play for the Waves this year. Yes.
Yeah, coached by Johnny and Paris at the helm. So
there you go.
Former Crusaders themselves. Now you've put Taryn Marnie as an out, understandably, as we'll get into Hornsby later, that she has been announced to play for Hornsby, but you've confidently put Nicole Hutchins in and out, and maybe we'll get to that one when we get to that team as well, right?
She was in the photo.
She was in it. We screenshot it and we saw it. We tagged her. But based on this roster so far, we already spoke about perhaps the potential to improving their fast break points. Are you expecting anything really different from the roster so far compared to last season?
I mean, they've lost a few players, but the majority of the minutes and what makes the team tick is coming back. Jazz Forkadell, Mitchell, Tompkins. That's what, makes the team run. I mean, Sezi Matthews still on the TBA list, I think injured, and Danica, those are the other two major minutes. But your top three players in minutes last season are all coming back. And you bring back Muffy, it's like she just slots straight back in. So I don't really expect a whole lot to change given who is coming back, even though it's only 5, maybe 7 announced so far.
Yeah, I think my only kind of question mark is, well, I've got 2 question marks. One, with Danica and Sezi Matthews out, or look, to be fair, Sezi Matthews TBA, hopefully she'll be able to make her way back to court this season. They're 2 big scoring powerhouses as well, inside and outside. So I think that they're going to be big shoes to fill. Other question mark is that Nicole Hutchins out. Who's going to be dominating the front court? Who's going to be their big that's going to be really kind of cementing some presence inside the key for them? I'm going to put up a picture of a drag queen from RuPaul's Drag Race, and this is one of their infamous lines. Where are the jokes? And that's what I say to myself with a lot of these rosters when I think, where are the bigs? Where are they? I mean, Michaela's a bona fide foreman, and she owns that position wherever she plays. Arguably the best in that position in our conference. But 5, who's going to be filling those shoes for the Crusaders?
Yeah, it is. I mean, the league is trending smaller this season. I will say that. But still, you want to have some paint presence, some real, knock them down, drag them out, battle in the paint kind of player. Dominate.
Yeah, so hopefully the Crusaders have another signing up their sleeve that we can get excited about. And I mean, but I like, TikTok tips off in 5 days. So time will tell. I guess we'll only really know once the first couple of weeks have been done and dusted to see what these rosters look like. But let's head over now. We are going to go to the Hills Hornets with your lovely graphic here incorporating the green and the red of the Hills Hornets colors. Take us through the 2024 season facts and stats.
So 6-14, finished 12th. I think another team, not as drastically as Bankstown, but probably could have done something better considering their top scorer, Emma Carey, 16 points per game. They had Meg Jefferson on the roster and Rachel McLemore. So 2 imports and Meg Jefferson. Probably would have been hoping to do a bit more. I guess, I mean, the defensive rating, that's the thing. Just defensively, second worst defensive rating in the league. That's tough to come back from. And, I mean, it shows up. They committed a lot of fouls, which sends the opposition to the line. They didn't get to the line very often. They gave up second chance points despite the fact they didn't have a terrible defensive rebounding rate. I just didn't quite all come together for Hills last season. And I thought I just think they were probably just a real proper, like, floor general short, maybe.
Yeah, I think they had some really good pieces to put together, but they just seemed a little bit out of sync throughout the season with putting those said pieces together. I remember Meg Jefferson, unfortunately, getting herself in foul trouble a lot last season, and that obviously wasn't good for her consistency or perhaps the team's consistency on court. But when they started to find their groove in the back end of the season, they looked really, really good. But I think you're right. They just missed that another big piece, whether that was another big inside or another one dominating rebounds or another. I mean, their scoring wasn't too bad between Carey and Macklemore, but they just needed one more piece, maybe perhaps like a really strong point guard just to pull everything together and play someone like Hannah Griffin as a shooting guard instead.
And it's funny you mentioned Meg Jefferson being in foul trouble a lot. She averaged, 84 fouls in 19 games. So that's just under 4.5. So when you can only get 5, that means she's, probably going into the fourth quarter on 3 or 4 fouls most games. And I guess maybe if they had, it's one of those things where if you know they only have one real paint presence, take it at her and get her in foul trouble.
Yeah, that's right.
Makes it tough.
That's a really high average of fouls. I really feel for her though, because you just kind of feel as well sometimes when you're that player that there's going to be a target on your back every game, and then it can mentally be a weird slump, like a bit of a slump that you feel like you have to get out of, where whatever you try and do, and obviously you're not purposely fouling, but every time it happens, it just kind of perpetuates those negative feelings, and it can be really, really hard to shake. And then, you're not going to be able to contribute as much as you like. So I really felt for her in that situation. But it's the roster, though, featured in these stats and facts is going to be quite different for 2025. And shout out again to Hills for their great online content when they're announcing their roster for both the men's and women's team. Roster's looking pretty healthy so far, Lockie.
It certainly is. And yes, shout out to Hills for those awesome videos. And they got, to be fair, I think we could have done them in week 2 instead of another team, because they had 7 or 8 announced, just so did some other teams. This roster has got some serious additions and welcome backs.
Yeah, and we have Lockie Everett again commenting on Instagram saying, Shez will cook, mark my words. I expect nothing less from Shez.
Me too. Cherie Kalea back home. It's homecoming season, and she could be the homecoming queen.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. I see what you did there. We might have to snip that one up for us to relive that moment. But yeah, certainly a huge signing. I bet the whole club of Hills Hornets were just elated to learn that Shez was coming back. And it looks like a few other new additions to the Hills Hornets family. Nikki Warner coming from Canberra. Jade Kirasome coming from NBL 1 North, where she played with Logan last season. And there were a couple of returns that you mentioned before. Tell me more about them.
Well, obviously, Cherie, who has been playing in the WNBL for a good few years, and tearing it up at Mount Gambier. First name on the team sheet, obviously. Get the rock in her hands and let her score, facilitate, whatever she needs to do. But the comeback, the other welcome back, Maddie Hare. Geez, it's been a while. So took a break from basketball, kind of getting herself set up. She's like seemingly half of NBL 1 women is a personal trainer, fitness instructor, whatever the correct term is. And much like Josie Bullman, she has got that absolutely humming, judging by our socials. And yeah, now she's back. So I always thought she was pretty underrated back in the old Waratah days when she was, I think people, she played older than she was. And I think being so heavily invested in your fitness and your strength helps that. So she'll play in the front court for them. She used to, I remember watching her and Taylor Moss or Taylor Cotties at the time, just together for Hills. They were absolutely elite together. Just the athleticism of Cotties getting down court and Maddie Hare just doing her work in the front court was absolutely electric to watch. I'm just I mean, it's just a bonus to get a homegrown player back who we know can be that good.
Yeah, I agree. I remember when Maddie Hare and Shez were playing Youth League when they won the championship many moons ago on their home court as well. I thought she was a standout. So I'm really glad that she's made her way back to basketball. Going to be very handy in that 4, maybe 5 spot, maybe? Or do you think someone like Ella Luasu is going to be more in that 5 spot?
I would love to see Ella get an extended run in the front court, and Maddie. I mean, Maddie's not a 5. You know, if she has to play there, so be it. But yeah, I would hope to see Ella Suasu get a more extended run there. We'll see. I mean, they were trying, anyone and everyone at certain points last year. So just having more options is always a good thing, especially in light of Cassandra Pentney announcing her retirement and Meg Jefferson on the move to Newcastle. So certainly,
yeah. So you go. Sorry.
Certainly, work to do on the boards in the front court there.
Yeah, I think with the likes of Warner and Kalea and Kurasomi, I think their defensive rating automatically is going to go up. And I think if they're going to be in the backcourt on defense setting the tone, then the front court better be ready to match that tone, because otherwise they'll just be letting the whole system down. And I can't imagine, based on the people announced on this roster, that they're going to be playing for themselves or selfishly or taking a back seat. So, yeah, I think the tides are going to be turning for Hills Hornets in 2025. I'm expecting a very, very culturally united, quick young team. I'm just hoping that they're able to find their chemistry on offense as well and be a little bit more consistent with scoring. But yeah, I think their defensive rating is just going to already go up just based on who they got on paper.
100%. Yeah, I mean, putting myself out there, but once like many teams, I look at and go, okay, this team has to be moving up the table this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
The problem is I keep saying that about so many teams that eventually someone's not going to.
Yeah. Yeah, look, we just want everyone to have fun and do their best, and have a good time. We just want to see everyone succeed equally, but also have a definite winner.
Yeah. We want everyone to be equally good, but we don't want a 5-way tie for 4th place.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I'm sure the avid listeners of Escott Game are aware of our contradictions, but they probably also know that our contradictions are created from a good place of well wishes and just wanting everyone to do their best.
And I mean, it just speaks to how well the league's improving. You look at a roster and go, oh yeah, this team moving up the table. And then you go and look and it's like, oh, well, all the teams ahead of them are getting better as well.
Yeah, that's right. I think you're right. I think it is a bit of a testament to the league improving as well, going into the 3rd, 4th year now that we're officially NBL 1.
Yes, 4th season.
Yeah. And it's real. I'm really happy to see the league as a whole just go strength to strength in those first 4 years, because we know there was a lot of uncertainty and doubt when Waratah went into NBL 1. But look at us flourishing. All right, we'll get off our little pleasant little soapbox there and head over to the Hornsby Ku-ring-gai Spiders. They had a win-loss record of 5-15, finishing 14th overall. They didn't qualify for finals, obviously. Their top scorer, rebounder, and assist maker was Jessie May Hall, averaging 20.0 points per game, 7.2 rebounds per game, and 4.1 assists per game. Absolute baller, and also Youth Player of the Year for 2024, or however that award is now presented. Second in steals as well. That's a huge flex for this Hornsby team, but obviously some room to improve as well, Lockie.
Yeah, I mean, it comes with the territory of finishing 14th. obviously net rating is going to be low when you lose a lot of games. I put that in there more because I didn't want to use offensive and defensive because they were both low. Defensive rebounding rate, that's real low. I was hoping that would be a little bit higher, especially having, an import in Ayana Bay picking up 8.5 rebounds per game, and Jessie May picking up 7.2, of which 5.8 per game were on the defensive end. So I was hoping that would be a bit higher. Assist rate, it's definitely a room to improve, but that comes from having more scoring options. If Jessie Mayhall's got the ball in her hands, many times the best option is for her to just take off, go to the rack. And she looked even better at it at the Blitz. So if they have more options, the assist rate goes up. But I would love to see these stats broken down and just have the last 7 or 8 weeks of the season, because they went on an absolute tear at one point and they looked properly good at certain points in the season. So that kind of Hornsby team is getting way more than 5 wins. The Hornsby team we saw at other points in the season is not.
No, and I'm pretty confident that they went down to Canberra to play COE and beat them on their home court. And didn't Jessie May have a near triple-double that game?
Yeah, do you think she might have been wanting to send a message to them?
Yeah, that was, when the planets align for something like that, for someone who's obviously, Jessie May, obviously one of the best best athletes in her age group, obviously would be very welcome into the COE program, but hasn't entered for, whatever reason, which is fine. But yeah, just to go down there, send a bit of a message. We just love it when those things happen. You can't write it better. You cannot write the script better.
No, it's quite good, yes.
And I think just going back on your points about assist rate, if your field goal percentage, you're only 12th in the league for field goal percentage. Those two are going to go hand in hand, right? So you start making more shots and your assist rate's going to go up a bit higher. Yeah. But I think based on what we saw last season, they're all still quite young and they all still have pretty sound team concepts. And they looked like they had a ball playing with each other. So a lot of those things can be really hard to cultivate at this level. So I think that they're definitely showing some promising signs for 2025 if they're able to build on what they created last year. Yeah.
And I think it's easy to look like you're having fun playing together when you're winning. And the fact that they're all coming back, they all obviously want to be there together, despite the fact they finished 5 and 15. That's a lot harder to cultivate, is to still look like you want to be out there together when you're losing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something that would be really hard to coach or instill in your players at any age group. And it's not, I don't even know if it's really a coachable thing, but yeah, full credit to them for showing up their absolute best every round. So let's see how this roster is shaping up. So far they've announced Ashley Thacker, Sarah Cherry, and Dayla Walker, and Kira Hudson announced today as returning. Taryn Marnie has gone from the Crew back to the Spiders. Lockie, what do you think about this signing?
Well, I like it. I think everyone knows that I'm quite the fan of Taryn Marnie, dating back to her North's Youth League days. Yeah, I think she'll add plenty at the defensive end for them, which is obviously, their defensive rating definitely hurt them more than their offensive rating last year. So that's a good addition. The outs list is pretty short, and 2 of them are effectively forced. So yeah, it's still only 5 players announced, but it's one solid in so far, which I'm happy about.
Yeah, and were you able to hear any word on the ground about whether Ayana Bay is going to be making a return?
Word on the ground suggests it's a yes.
Very good.
Yes. A few players on that list look like they're coming back. I would say maybe even the majority, just judging by people getting tagged in photos or who I scoped out at the Blitz. But Hornsby, I will give you credit. We were needling you about your player announcements, and you've come through with the goods. So I will not give away all your secrets today because, well, you've got 4 days left to put some more announcements out.
Yeah, we won't spoil it for everyone. And, props to the social media team at Hornsby as well. Those graphics of the player announcements are looking really nice and clean and fresh. So worth the wait, especially just to get some confirmation that some of our favorites from Hornsby are returning. And now we did allude to a big question mark that hasn't been officially announced, but we did see in a lot of social media posts, and including the photo that they used to announce Taryn Marnie signing, Nicole Hutchins is returning to the Spiders after playing with the Crusaders for the last 2 to 3 seasons. That's got to be a big in for the Spiders.
Yes, quite literally. I'm going to stop making that joke when teams sign centers. I swear I will eventually stop making that joke.
But I feel like, fair trade before when you mentioned that we won't reveal the whole roster, to as respect for Hornsby. But they did actually post a picture of Hutch playing in that. So I think that's fair that we give that one away.
Yeah.
Probably the worst kept secret in the NBL 1 East.
Yes.
But certainly expecting them to improve from that 5-15 record, especially now that if Ayana Bay is coming back, Nicole Hutchins is coming back, Taryn Marnie. Some really key pieces in the front court and on the defensive end that I think Hornsby needed.
Yeah, I just, before we move on, just looking at the outs list, Courtney Murphy, I actually, first time I've ever had to put AFLW as a reason for a player leaving a club because she's down at Essendon. And sadly, Serena Waters announced her retirement due to her injuries. Serena, I mean, I've known Serena since, God, how long? I don't even know. But yeah, so just hate seeing players, have to retire so young because of injuries. But I'm sure whatever Serena chooses to do next in her life, she will be highly successful at.
Very nicely put, Lockie. But yeah, so are we ready to move on to the Illawarra Hawks?
Certainly am.
Let's start with some stats and facts, and it must be the vibes must be really high down in Wollongong after the Illawarra Hawks NBL team won in Game 5. I wish I was there for that. But yeah, let's focus on this Illawarra Hawks women's team, their 2024 stats and facts. So they finished with a win-loss record of 9-11, finishing 10th overall. Unfortunately, not qualifying for finals, but certainly flirted with the idea throughout the season. And top scorer was Ella Dent, averaging 12.6 points per game. Amelia Garcia Leon with 7.5 rebounds per game, and Lauren Gatwood with 3.8 assists per game. A lot of room to improvement, especially on the offensive end, Lockie. But it looks like some of their defensive play last season was more in their strengths. Would you say?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it was funny. When I saw that assist rate, I was like, it didn't really sound it didn't sound great. Like, it didn't sound right, but they assist a lot. They just weren't scoring a lot. So their assist rate is high, but their actual raw assist numbers are like 8th. But when they do score the ball, it generally comes from an assist. But yeah, I mean, they turned it over a bit too much and let the opposition score off turnovers far too much. But yeah, defensively, a defensive rating of 87.9. That's pretty good. Let's see who it's ahead of. Like some good teams it's ahead of. 87.9. It's ahead of Comets. It's ahead of COE. It's ahead of Central Coast. It's ahead of Sutherland. It's bettered only by Newcastle, Manly, Norths, and Albury Wodonga.
Wow, that's great. That's outstanding.
Yeah. It was just their offensive rating was even lower. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. They were great on defense and not so great on offense. And in the end, it just fell the wrong way for them. 9 and 11 and, just outside the finals. I mean, eventually one spot outside the finals because COE had to pull out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, and I think when you see that your top scorer is only averaging 12.6 points per game, I mean, already that's a sign that, hey, perhaps our offense needs a little bit of improving. Did you watch many of their games? Are you able to recall and perhaps what the main issues around their scoring was? Was it in a sense of being organized in the half court, just essentially missing way too many shots or not taking the right shots? What do you think were some of the elements that hindered their offensive performance?
I seem to remember, and I'm going to use HoopsDB here and try to find. Yeah, I feel like their shooting percentage, like from close range, wasn't that crash hot. So not just their 2-point percentage, but even like really close to the basket wasn't as great as it could have been. And to be fair, Eladan averaged 12.6, but they had 4 players average double digits. But no one going, really above and beyond, as you said, Squint. And I mean, Ella only shot 27% from the field last season as your top scorer. And I guess that's probably, if it's taking you 12.7 shots to score 12.6 points per game. That's kind of tough. But I mean, a lot rested on Eladan's shoulders throughout that season. She was always bringing the ball up. She was expected to be a scorer, and expected to facilitate as well. So, I think they gave themselves opportunities. They just didn't take advantage of them very well. I think that bears out in their effective field goal percentage from last season.
And speaking of the high demands placed on Eladan in the 2024 season, correct me if I'm wrong, but unfortunately she ended the season with an injury.
Was that in the final game?
I think
she played every game.
I think it was perhaps in the very final game. The load just got the better of her in the end, unfortunately. And then
she was the only player. She was the only player on the team to average over 30 minutes per game. Couple averaged. Yeah. Asher Phillips averaged 29, but for the most part, she was the only one to actually go over 30 per game.
Well, let's see who's coming back for the 2025 season. So the two you just mentioned in Asher Phillips and Eladan have been announced to return for 2025, along with Ruby McDonald, Lauren Gatwood are also returning. A lot of familiar faces again, another team where a lot of familiar faces are coming back and a lot of local talent as well, Lockie.
Yeah, so, I mean, the TBA list remains long, but, I mean, 7 of those names were there last year, and Emerson McRae was, she is an Illawarra junior who's played 2 years of under-18s New South Wales country and was in the New South Wales under-20s team this year. So plenty of young talent. I mean, Imogen Thompson and Charlotte Giles are already pretty much part of the rotation at this stage, and I'm sure Emerson McRae won't be far away either.
And on the TBA list, I'm pretty sure Amelia Garcia-Leon has signed somewhere else overseas, so I don't think she'll be returning to NBL 1 East. I haven't heard any news about Arndorf, Calver, Blewett, or McDonald's. Have you heard any more news about this roster on the ground, Lockie?
This is one roster I haven't heard much about, if anything. And Lockie, pick up your phone and call some people or text some people. But yeah, I mean, every year it feels like Georgia Aldorf just ends up playing anyway. Doesn't matter if she gets announced. It might not be round one, but she turns up eventually. But I mean, we say that about players like Brianna Breen-Magone and Jadine Barnes from Bankstown. They just kept coming back and coming back. That's the Hennessy's for our older listeners.
Yeah, good point of reference. That is the Hennessy's, yes.
It's like, oh yeah, they'll keep coming back. But eventually they don't. So we'll see what happens there. And the same goes to like Courtney Jardine. And I know Lauren Calver, hospital shift work sometimes gets the better of you, gets the better of your athletic career, unfortunately. So I guess TBA, but I mean, Illawarra, they've been pumping out the player announcements recently. So we'll probably watch this space.
And the men's program have been getting a lot of love with their signings. I was hoping that the love was going to be shared in the women's signings, maybe perhaps another import or another big name from another conference joining the roster. But I guess, never say never. It's perhaps not still too late to add someone like that.
Well, I mean, they've got the ex-Darwin Salties connection. Is there anyone left up there that they can grab maybe? Because they've done that on the men's side already. Yeah,
I think from memory, the main players or the players getting the most amount of minutes for the Darwin Salties in the women's team last season have already very quickly signed elsewhere. So
that was what I thought. Just thinking about who those players were. But we'll see. Coaches have connections, and sometimes you just get offered a player by an agent.
Yeah, that's right. That wouldn't be a bad pickup either. So, yeah, hoping this Illawarra women's team can improve on their offensive efficiency in the 2025 season. Perhaps some outstanding youth like Emerson McRae, maybe just the spark that they need.
Well, if Jardine, Garcia-Leon, and Aldorf don't come back, she's going to be getting minutes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Just let her cook, I say. Let her cook.
Let her cook. Yeah. Just let her get the experience.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what do you got to lose? Okay, let's move on to the next team being the Inner West Bulls women's side. So in the 2024 season, they finished with a win-loss record of 1-19, finishing
and
16th.
They obviously didn't lose the elimination final to Comets.
Yeah, they definitely didn't. Yeah, definitely didn't lose the limit. That's okay. Look, I mean, we still are very appreciative of all this work you put into these slides, Lockie. So one incorrect line is okay. The top scorer was Piers Gabriel with 14.5 points per game, but I think she only really played, half of the season after some creative differences, shall we say, in the team dynamic. And then Maggie Robinson came in, I think, as Gabriel left, ended up being top rebounder for the season, averaging 11.0 rebounds per game. And Shiho Yamazaki leading the assists with 3.2 per game. Understandably, plenty of room to improve for this Inner West Bulls women's program. The highlight being opportunity free throw percentage. They were 5th. Tell us a little bit more about that.
I was looking for things they were good at.
Yeah.
I mean, it just means, the opposition free throw percentage, it just means, and the opposition 3-point percentage actually is more of a, stat that matters. I mean, at least it probably means that they're at least defending the 3-point line and defending the perimeter pretty well. Fouls committed low, that can be kind of a smoke screen. It's like, well, you're not committing fouls because you're playing good defense, or is it because you were getting blown by? So
yeah.
But I think, as we'll see on the next page, one name is enough to change a lot of what we're seeing here.
That is
Talia Tupaya, who has already dragged, or not dragged, I keep saying dragged, it's not dragged, but very much led Inner West to victory at the Blitz over Comets. Yes, that as I said about Penrith, they're better 1 to 12, but they don't have Talia. Inner West have only announced one player, but it is Talia.
Yeah. So weigh
yeah,
that up.
Yeah. What did they say about Maya Moore? Maya Moore and 4 middle schoolers would still be a good team.
Yeah. Is this going to be the case for the Inner West Bulls women's program for 2025? Talia Tupaya and 4 year 10 students.
Well, we joke, but word is they are more signing. I mean, I watched them at the Blitz. They had a few names that were in this TBA list. I won't give it away, but yes, they did have a few names in that TBA list. And yeah, they've got more signings coming, and signings that will make a difference. So yeah, expect much improvement from the Inner West Bulls.
I sure hope so. And I know that you want to try and keep some of the list from some of the people named on the TBA list. Want to try and keep that under wraps. But can you give us maybe 2 names that was on that TBA list that you saw at the Blitz?
So Bianca Small.
Very good.
I know Georgia Nowak is moved clubs
Mm-hmm.
because we found out that she listens to Escott game whilst driving up to training.
Love that for her. Shout out to Georgia Nowak, who is someone who I also had at Country Cup when she was under 18. So she's a New South Wales country girl at heart, which we love.
And Zoe Ralston looks to be back as well. So there you go. There's 2.
Very good. Very good 2 to pick as well. Bianca Small and Zoe Ralston. I think they were some of the probably 2 of the main 5 people on that TBA list that I had the biggest question marks and biggest hopes that they were returning to the game, whether it's with Inner West or otherwise. I was just hoping that they were going to play. Very good. Yeah, so hopefully things are on the up and up for the Inner West Bulls women. Speaking of New South Wales country, it's time to talk about the Stangers, Maitland Mustangs women. In 2024, they had a win-loss record of 5-15, finishing 13th overall, meaning, unfortunately, they didn't qualify for finals. And they had, their usual suspects leading the 3 major statistical categories, with Shakira Riley averaging 15.1 points per game and being their top scorer. Sydney Hunter, no surprise, lead as the top rebounder with 9.5, and Rachel Williams with the most assists for 2024 for the Stangers with 3.4 assists per game. What else are you taking away from these stats and facts for the Stangers, Lockie?
I mean, hate to harp on it, but a turnover rate of 18.7% combined with a low offensive rating. One leads to the other.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No. So I like the fact the opposition assist rate it's decent. It's 7th. The thing is, felt like Mustangs had a lot of stats that were like in the 6th to 10th range. nothing really high. A few of these were 13th, 14th, 15th, but yeah, I mean, they did finish 5 and 15. But yeah, turnover rate, yeah, not helping their offensive rating. Fortunately, they were decent on the boards, and their bench actually contributed 22% of their scoring last season, which is interesting. But they had, I guess, Isabella Jennings only started 12 of 19 games and averaged 8.4 points. Yeah, that certainly helps. But yeah, I think with a couple of additions, we could see Maitland back to near where they were a couple of seasons ago, right in the finals hunt. Other teams' improvements notwithstanding.
Yeah, that's right. Good. I like that disclaimer. Yeah, reading out the stats just now for the Stingers, I was surprised that their win-loss record was 5 and 13. Certainly didn't feel like that, given that Maitland are always going to be quite competitive. They're always a team that you can't take lightly because they're always going to be coming with the goods, always playing their best, and another team that have done really well with cultivating a positive culture in their women's program. And you can tell that they enjoy playing for each other. So yeah, that record of 5 and 15 was surprising. I do remember some ups and downs as well, though, in the team. I think they had a change of coach midway through the season and a lot of other stuff going on, which can sometimes influence the team's on-court performance too. But yeah, offensive rating and turnover rate, like you said, big rooms for improvement for 2025. But as you mentioned, looking at the roster, it looks like they certainly have potential to improve on that. Couple of big ins there as well for Maitland Mustangs. Would you like to talk about the couple of big ins that we've got this season?
I'm sorry, is this the Maitland Mustangs or the University of San Diego?
That is so funny you say that, because in my notes I wrote AKA the San Diego Mustangs.
Legitimately, though, because they've got Sydney Hunter back and Mila Washkovich is back from San Diego. And then Casey Newbert, who has graduated from college at San Diego, where she was a teammate of Mila last season. So they're the two San Diego ins. And actually, Mila she looks like a player who just benefited from the opportunity you get to just live a year of basketball at college. She just looks better at everything. And I think that's the best thing I can say about her, is that she just looks a little bit better. I talked to Sid and Miller about Casey, listed as a power forward, emphasis on the power.
Very nice. Very nice. That's great intel because, again, hate to bring up Trinity the Tuck again, but where are the jokes? Where are the bigs? Mean, Sydney Hunter is already playing like an undersized big, so perhaps Casey is going to be very similar. I did try and find footage on Casey to see what her playing style was like and her strengths, but I couldn't find a lot. No, how bizarre was that I found like a couple of clips maybe from high school, but I couldn't find
that's what I found as well.
College clips. Yeah.
I guess maybe coming straight out of, she's not straight out of college, so
no,
maybe
she did. And she did 2 years at Hawaii before she went to San Diego.
Yeah. But 10.1 points, 9.6 rebounds per game in her senior year. Only shot 18 three-pointers, attempted 18 three-pointers compared to 192 pointers in her senior year. So definitely won't be seeing her, flinging it from beyond the arc. But another player, 6'1", goes and grabs rebounds. We've got a few of those because Sid Hunter's around the same height and will grab a rebound. We've heard the same about Jordan Vasquez from Penrith. So maybe after last year's, bevy of 6'4", 6'5" import bigs, teams are trending a little bit smaller this year.
Yeah, certainly seems that way. But great to see the Maitland Mustangs with a very healthy roster ready for round one. And again, another roster that is beaming, or should I say breaming or beaming? But you know what I mean. It's brimming.
Brimming. Yes, brimming.
Yeah. Too bad we're live because I can't cut that out. But a lot of local talent is what I'm trying to get at. And a lot of local talent that have played in this program for a long time as well. So credit to the Stangers for keeping their club together in such a great way. And, having this sisterly partnership now with San Diego, we'd love to see it. I wonder if some other clubs might start to trend in that direction. I mean, Newcastle flirted with it a little bit, having the Michigan signings through Kyra Evans.
Shall see.
So, yeah, we should definitely
maybe
see.
Isla can deliver them someone from Louisville.
Yeah. Oh, I think Newcastle would be more than happy to welcome anyone from that Louisville roster.
But you talk about connections. Just the idea of players from further north going to, just mentioned Isla going to Newcastle and Monique Rudder coming down to Maitland, because Maitland this year have signed a player from Coffs Harbour who actually played against them in Waratah League semi-finals last year, Alexis Plater from the New South Wales under-20s team.
Interesting. Very interesting. Truth be told, didn't know a lot about Alexis, so give us some intel.
Well, because I still have my Waratah League semi-final commentary notes.
Yes, of course you do,
something.
Yes.
Hey, what is in my 4 notebooks in my drawer is my business. It's all basketball notes. So, yes, Alexis Plater averaged 25.7 points in Waratah League last year, which if she played enough games would have won the scoring title. But she only had 4 3-point makes all season. So she is getting to the rack. I think I went and looked at her under-18 junior national shot charts, her under-20s national shot charts. Not a lot of threes there either. So she was honestly just on an absolutely different, as you would expect from, a under-20 New South Wales player who's just gone and, won a national championship. It was funny. I talked to her after the Waratah League semi-final and said, I commentated. It was a great game. And she said, yeah, I'm looking to find a club for next season. In my head, I just wrote down Maitland.
What? And what made you think Maitland and not another club? Like, what was your instinct just said Maitland straight away? What do you think that was, where that came from?
I don't know. There was just, I just thought, Coffs Harbour coming down, find a club. I mean, I could have just easily said Newcastle or Central Coast, but I just thought, having just played Maitland, showed off, if you want a club, I just felt like Maitland would be a club that would be interested. And yeah. So on a personal level, I think it's very cool to see Alexis Plater in NBL 1. I am so psyched to have the chance to call her games again. And I used the Vince Carter, it's over gif when she signed.
Very good. Too bad. I could have queued that up for you instead of just hogging the limelight with Trinity the Tuck. Where are the jokes? Where are the bigs is what I'm asking. But another pretty quick looking roster, a lot of shooters on the outside, like we mentioned before, perhaps some non-traditional bigs playing, some undersized bigs that can still do the work of an effective and efficient big man. And adding that spark in Alexis Plater. So Stangers hopefully going to get their top 8 finals berth again in 2025. I think I can see them, though, probably it would be interesting. The matchups I'm looking forward to now that we've previewed Hills, Maitland, Illawarra, those 3 teams, I'm going to be really interested to see what the results are when they play each other. So if I just quickly go back to...
Well, Maitland
This
are going to the
slide-
snake pit. Maitland are going to the snake pit this weekend to play Illawarra.
Oh, okay, great. So, and they play Heels and Illawarra away, and they only play each other once. I'm gonna go on a limb and say that those games between Heels, Illawarra, and Maitland women are going to be those results are going to be super important and perhaps affect the back end of the season. It just gives me that feel because their rosters are kind of similar in terms of skill set and makeup. And I guess the history as well of how they've performed over the last couple of seasons. I just get a sense that it's given me three-way tie vibes, but I just think that the results of when they play each other is going to have a big impact or be super important in the long run.
Oh, you don't have long to wait, Squin. Week 1.
Week 1. We keep saying that, and it's in my diary. But watch me forget. It'll be tip off for the first game, and I'll be forgetting that it started. But
3 p.m.
Right.
3 p.m.
3
Saturday.
p.m.
Oh, actually, it'll be 2 p.m. for you, won't it?
Yes, I still get that mixed up, but yes, it will. Okay, now rolling on to is it our lucky last team already for this episode?
Is it really?
No, surely not. Let me check. No,
Yeah,
is it? It is.
So, yeah.
Well, here we go then. You kind of alluded to it. It's your beloved Sutherland Sharks. Oh, actually, we'll go to stats and facts. Sorry there, we gave a glimpse of the roster before we got into it, but here are the stats and facts from 2024. Win-loss record of 12 and 8, finishing 5th, but fought their way to a spot in the grand final and unfortunately losing to the Newcastle Falcons in what was an absolute barn burner of a grand final to remember. That was so thrilling.
The only reason I'm okay with you bringing it up is because I was calling the game.
The two best people to call that game as well was yourself and Hamish Salberg.
It was.
The two that I would trust the most with a women's game like that. Oh, it was so exciting. I don't think I would have been able to control my emotions and excitement had I been there in person to watch it. But yeah, just really felt for that Sutherland team and Coach Adam just losing in such dire circumstances in the end. But did the Sharkies very proud.
They did. Yes, I'm well versed in commentating the Sharkies losing grand finals now, unfortunately. But life goes on, and we move into season 2025. Yes, there was the Panousis era, the Nicholson era, and the Nicholson-Panousis era when it came to this Sharks team. And obviously, it was the Nicholson-Panousis era in the last few weeks where they managed to roll through to the grand final. Unsurprisingly for the Sharkies, opposition second chance points pretty high. Didn't force a whole lot of turnovers. I guess that's what happens when Lauren Nicholson only plays 4 regular season games. I think if she played more, that number probably would have been top 5 in the league. Shot the 3 at a good clip. Shot it a fair bit as well, which was good. Dished the ball. Yeah. As a Davidson fan, share, shoot, stifle. That's the Davidson women's basketball motto. And when Nicholson was on the roster, the Sharks were doing that very well. The stifle bit, when she wasn't there, was a bit, how you going? But they managed to fight their way to 5th and put themselves right in the mix. And with 3 minutes to go, they were an even money chance of winning the title. So what can you say?
Yeah, and, full credit to this Sharkies team, and especially even the Sutherland Sharks men's team at the year before, finishing 5th or thereabouts at the end of the regular season, and then just finding that little bit of extra fight or focus to climb their way into the grand final. I mean, that's tough. That's really, really tough, especially when you're not really adding any extra pieces. You're just trying to like amplify the pieces that you've got, and finding that little bit extra makes it so exciting. It's almost like becoming the Sutherland Sharks brand.
Yeah, it's doing wonders for my lifespan.
Yeah. I didn't say it wasn't without consequence. But I'm not surprised with being first in free throw percentage when you've got someone like Loz Nicholson, who always averages 80+% in her whole life from the free throw line. I think things like blocks and steals being 14th and 12th respectively, probably something you can live with, because they're not really statistics that generally teams need to focus on anyway, or are really going to give be too much of a pivotal point for wins and losses in the long run of a game. Second chance points, I was kind of surprised by, but probably also points in the paint, maybe not so much, given it, like you said, it was the Nicholson-Panousis era.
And one of our bigs is Maddie Norris, who definitely far more known for the pick and pop than the pick and roll.
Yeah, correct. So they play Hills twice, Illawarra twice, Inner West twice, Newcastle twice, Sydney twice. So that's pretty tough. Away they play Canberra, Central Coast, COE, Manly, North. I think their away games are probably, compared to the home and away games, are tougher based on the rosters we've previewed so far.
Oh, definitely. That Manly and North only away, killing me.
Yeah. But let's have a look at the roster as it stands. So Eliza Fabro is back, which we love to see, along with Maddie Norris and Olivia Douglas, who, aka formerly known as Olivia White. Another off-season wedding that we need to congratulate.
Yes. Well, Liv has her Insta handle is now Liv Douglas, but her name on her Insta account is still Olivia White. So we'll figure it out on Saturday. Actually, she might not even be there because she's got rugby in Hong Kong tomorrow and Thursday.
Wow. Is she representing Australia, or is she for
a
club? Or?
She's Southern District. I think it's Southern Districts taking a team over to Hong Kong Tens rugby.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no wonder she's so tough to rebound against and to have.
Well, she did play. She played in the National Rugby 7 series as well, so she's yes, quite the rugby player, and quite the basketballer as well.
Yeah, true dual athlete. So again, another women's roster we love to see making the most of their local talent, and a lot of local talent returning. Is there anyone on that current roster that you're most excited about for 2025?
Madison Carey.
Talk to me.
Well, if there's no Panousis, Nicholson, I mean, she looks like she could get out there and play tomorrow, despite the fact she's heavily pregnant. But that's just going to open up spots in the backcourt. And Maddie Carey had her first season with the club last year. Got a little bit of a opportunity in some games. It wasn't all garbage time or, late in games. She played in 10 games. And I just think the opportunity is right there for her to suit up in the backcourt, whether it's alongside Fabro or with Jordan Dewhurst at different times. It's just opportunities. And of course, Manny Piljevic is now over in college. Callie Hovat has moved to Canada. So there's 4 guards there on the roster. So there might be an opportunity for her in the rotation.
Excellent. And so we know that the likes of Douglas will still be dominating on the inside. Maddie Norris still adding size, but also length and prowess from the 3-point line. But in the TBA list, you still have Nancaro and Kleinen. Any word on the street whether they'll be returning?
Pretty sure Gabby Nancaro is playing rugby league now, is what someone said on the weekend. And I don't think Hannah Kleinen's back either. But Mel Andre Yunus was announced by the Sharks earlier this afternoon.
Ah,
So
very
there's
good.
one TBA into the definites.
Love
And
to hear it.
I'm not giving away anything else because I like having a commentary job at Sutherland.
Yeah, that's fair enough, I think. And hopefully our listeners can read between the lines when Lockie says that perhaps expect something to be coming, but we're not at liberty to say.
Yeah.
You think that's a fair way to put it?
Yes. I'm not going to, it could be someone from the TBA list. It could be someone else. It could be an in. It could be an out. Maybe you'll just have to tune in to the Crosstown Clash on Saturday afternoon and find out. Or come down to the Shark Tank.
Even better. It's a great atmosphere at the Shark Tank. Can we expect the Division 3 girls to be turning up with their signs again this season?
Well, they were actually 14s Div 1 last year, not Div 3.
So
they've gone from 12
Div
3 to 14s Div 1. I can only assume they'll still have signs. I hope they still have signs. I like their signs. I think everyone likes their signs.
Well, yeah, please, if you're able to, please take some photos for our eScott Game Instagram of these signs if you're able to and you have time. And if there are said signs to be photographed, because, yeah, there were some really great ones the last couple of seasons. I'd love to see how that progresses and if that becomes a permanent thing at the Shark Tank, the fan art.
I hope it does. I think they do a pretty good job. But from the team to do a pretty good job starting this weekend. As I said, there was the Panusis, the Nicholson, and the Nicholson-Panusis. And at the moment, we've got neither of them and still got the rest of the roster to fill out. So we'll see what we make of it. Because I think even at times when Sutherland didn't have either Panusis or Nicholson on the court, the rest of them were able to hang, with the mid-pack at least. Need that another piece to remain, up there fighting for top 4 like they were last year.
I mean, they were the types of games where Emily Garland got a starting spot and just balled out and had some of her best performances on the stat sheet. So I hope that she can get a few more minutes in this rotation as well. I reckon she's probably proved herself to be up there in the mix of the top 7 in the rotation.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, she was 7th for minutes played last year. So, I mean, I call her the skeleton key. Fits in anywhere, unlocks everything. Because she plays probably 2 through 5 and the 1 if we get desperate at youth league level. So she might be undersized in some positions at NBL 1 level, but she's developed the skill set in so many different areas that, she can be called upon to do. I mean, her standard spot in NBL 1 is on the wing, basically firing away. But if she gets down low, she can certainly hang.
Yeah. So are you, now that we've done, especially the teams that we've covered in this episode, I feel like of the 8 that we've previewed, there's probably at least 4 that I can see cementing themselves in the middle, perhaps causing some kind of 3-way tie in the middle, perhaps on the cusp of the top 8 as well to make finals. Based on what you know about this Sharks roster, are you hoping or are you confident that they'll be able to make top 8?
They can certainly give it a fair shake. I feel like it's more at this stage, more like the 2023 season than the 2024 for them, where they finished equal 7th with Hills. Actually, that was the ridiculous tie year. That was the 4-way tie for 5th. Sorry. Oh wait, no, that's the men's team. You idiot.
Yeah,
Sorry, my
the
bad.
men's had no. That's okay. The men's had that
Yeah,
cursed
sorry,
four-way
but
tie.
yes, I'm trying to remember, but it does feel. Yeah, I mean, the fact that we won't have Nicholson at least for an extended period is it's such an it's a no, but an unknown. You know what she brings, but how well can you fill it by committee? Yeah. So 2023, 15-7, but Maitland, so that was the season Maitland were 14-8. Yeah. When I think of how we go, without Nicholson and how well and there's so much unknown about this Sutherland team. And it's hard for me to say it. It's hard for me to say it because I don't want to talk the team down, and I don't think they deserve to be talked down. But it's just something you can't ignore.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah. You still got to be. You can still be objective and realistic based on what the information you have without intentionally talking someone down. I can see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, you've got Fabro, Norris, Douglas. Yeah, you've got two players with WNBL experience in Fabro and Norris. You've got Douglas who'll, dominate the paint. You've got solid backups and youngsters coming through. We'll see on Saturday just how we go against Penrith and build from there. Because then we got Hills in the Hive week 2. That will be a good one. That'll be a good, that'll be a good barometer for both teams actually.
Yeah, I agree. And even especially that first game against Penrith, given that Penrith have come back this season, like you mentioned earlier, without Talia Tupaya, but still probably a stronger roster and a roster with a little bit more depth to give. I think it's going to be quite a test for the Sharkies for their first game of the season. I think that's going to be a good litmus test to see where they might sit in those first 2 games between Penrith and Hills. Yeah, that's going to be super interesting. Like, I think, it's just interesting that we've showcased these particular women's teams for this episode where I feel like a lot of them, in terms of what they have on paper and historically, are starting to overlap. And I'm starting to see a lot of tied situations or situations where if they only play each other once, it's going to be very, very important for how they end up on the ladder. So just going back to the Sharkies games, as we mentioned before, their away games are the ones that are going to be the toughest. So they really got to get the split. They at least play Hills and Illawarra twice, which I feel like, in a similar mix. So it's really important from the Sharkies' point of view to at least get the split on those teams.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, could not have said it better myself. Yeah.
All right, very good. So perhaps, let's take some time in the next couple of weeks, and especially after we watch round 1, just to kind of digest all of the rosters that we know. Maybe we have to put them side by side, a little bit like that Always in Sunny Philadelphia meme with Charlie and the red cotton and strings going from picture to picture, trying to figure out where are these teams going to fall on the ladder come the end of the season. But I think I was looking at planning on the weekend for the season ahead, there will be 3 rounds of NBL 1 East before we have a break for Easter. And I think that us as commentators, spectators, fans, whatever, it's going to be enough time for us to be able to confidently start to give some predictions of how parts of this season are going to play out. So watch this space, East Scott game fans, because hopefully around Easter we'll be able to officially give some predictions. And it just so happens that we did want to do predictions this season, but we did want to wait till later, knowing that the roster announcements are going to be at a very casual pace as they were last year. So I think after 3 rounds and then that Easter break, we'll be able to really see where everyone's going to sift. But yeah, the women's competition, I think particularly for the first time, say in the last 3 seasons, more than the men's team, I can say It's the women's competition where that position of 5th to 8th again is going to be a real dogfight.
Oh, yes. And it always is. And it's not just the 5th to 8th, it's the teams trying to make that jump into the top 4. And then...
Because top 4, at least consistently the last few seasons, has been the likes of Bandits, COE, Manly, Newcastle, North are always in that mix.
They certainly are. And it looks like they're starting to add players to the NBL One website for the season. So we might find some players over the next few days that haven't been announced.
Interesting. Very interesting. I like that super sleuth tip of information there, Lockie. Nicely done. Before we wrap up, though, do you have any news from the league that you'd like to share with us this episode?
Something that I found interesting is Hills have announced that Reece Potter will be now their high performance manager, and they're starting building, turning a room or a function room or something into a high performance center. I haven't seen many details on the high performance center, but they're starting a high performance program, which I think is absolutely great. Because, I mean, they already run 3 facilities, I think, and, certainly have the association humming along. So anything they can do to continue to develop their players, more power to them. I know Sutherland, Pat Williamson, our former men's head coach, is now our performance manager. So seems to be, don't know if it'll start a trend, but certainly good to see another club, investing in the high performance pathway and maybe get players from that NBL 1 East level, more players to that next level, NBL, WNBL and beyond.
Yeah, look, full credit to Hills Hornets. They've just gone from strength to strength as a club. Like, from the outside looking in, they demonstrate a lot of professionalism in a lot of different ways. We talked about their social media announcements. Excuse me. Also now with their high performance coach and facility. I just really admire their investment in the game, essentially, and their local talent.
Yeah. I mean, couldn't have said it better myself. They just, they're doing it well, and the results will come eventually. It'll show in the players they develop. It's not something you can judge, 12 months in, or even 2 years in, probably.
Yeah, that's right. And they've obviously got someone with a wealth of coaching experience like Reece Potter in that position. So lots of ticks for the Hills Hornets. Credit to you. Have you got any other news from around the grounds?
Not really. We dropped those few signings earlier, but I think that's about it from me. What about you, Squin? What do you got?
I owe nothing, my friend. I have absolutely nothing. But what I thought we should probably do, if you haven't already, is maybe let's pull up the schedule or the fixtures for round 1, tipping off, as we said, this Saturday. So I'm just waiting for the page to load. Let's share this screen. Making sure I share the right one. Here we go, fixtures. So it all kicks off on Saturday, the 25th of March at 3 p.m, as Lockie mentioned early in the episode. First game of the season being the Centre of Excellence hosting the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles in the women. Bit of a tall order for both teams to be playing each other in the first game of the season. And the women's games are obviously starting at 3 p.m. and then a lot of 5 p.m. games as well on the same day, including the likes of Sutherland Sharks and Penrith, as we just mentioned. Newcastle versus Comets at Newcastle is going to be a good one to watch as well. And then the first men's game will be tipping off in Canberra with Centre of Excellence and Manly, as you would expect, at 5 p.m. And you know what? why not make those games a tiny bit earlier on a Saturday if you can? Because if you're playing away, especially at a place like Canberra where you have to kind of stay over, get a bit more free time, a little bit more time to perhaps team bonding, a little bit more time for a bit of dinner, a bit of drinks, a bit of a dance at Mooseheads if you're in that Canberra road trip. Unless they have a double header to start, which I don't think
they do not, because the Gunners and Nationals are in Albury-Wodonga for a Seabull showdown.
Will be a Seabull showdown. That's correct. That is correct. So yeah, having a really quick look there at that roster. Apologies, I probably zoomed through that way too quick. So if you were to pick one game from the women's competition and one game from the men's competition, what are your personal games of the week for round one?
Leaving aside Sutherland Penrith, because
yes,
I'm not going to be that guy. I think on the women's side, I want, if is Davida here yet?
Good question.
If she is, then it's Bankstown North for mine. If not, then it's Centre of Excellence Manly on the women's side.
Good question. I spoke to one of our friends, Kaz, who commentates the English League, as you know. And I know that she's commentating some finals this upcoming weekend. And I'm not too sure if the Manchester women are making finals or not. So I think there's going to be a little bit of an overlap. I don't think David is going to be here for round one. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. But I'm happy to be corrected. So if there's anyone watching online that knows for certain if Davida Dale is going to be here round one, please let us know. Or if you're listening to this episode after, please send us a message on Instagram at eScottGame. So let's say, to be safe, the game of your personal game of the week for the women's competition is Centre of Excellence and Manly.
Yeah.
And what about the men's competition?
Well, that one, I think, with one that just made the finals last year, one that just missed out. We know people are actually here for this one. That one, I'm going to go Bankstown North on the men's side.
Yeah, I reckon that's going to be super exciting as well. Like you said, that history from last season of like the fight for the final spot, but both coming in to 2025 with, I'm going to say 50-50 rosters, like 50 core and 50 new. And well, maybe not 50-50. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but still pretty different rosters in both the men's competition for each of these teams. And I would say that both rosters have been a little bit boosted from 2024. Both are going to be really eager and hungry to establish themselves early in the men's competition. I think that's a very good pick, Lockie.
What are your picks, though?
Yes, good question. Good question. I'm going to say, I think for the women's competition, I'm really keen to see the Newcastle Comets game. Newcastle adding some extra pieces to their already sound roster from last season. And Comets, Piper Anderson coming off her first season as a DP with the Flames. So I'm sure she's keen to light it up again for Comets. And obviously I just want to see Michaela Perini in the East. I just want to see her. Oh, and obviously Susie Walmsley's back. So I'm really excited to watch her play again in her home colours.
Yes.
So I think for me, that one's I'm a little bit more excited for. So Newcastle Comets in the women's comp. And then in the men's competition, I think I'm excited for the Albury Gunners game.
Yeah, that was one I had my eye on as well.
I mean, Gunners, we know what we're going to get. Gunners are kind of like Maccas in a sense of like, you go there, you know what you're going to get, and you're not going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
So I'm keen for that game, but I'm really keen to see how this Bandits men's roster is going to look all together because, based on what Coach Matt was saying about they're all taking this opportunity to have a bigger role in a new team. They're all kind of hungry to prove themselves and to really cement the Bandits men's program on the map again as a new looking roster. I think that's going to be really exciting. And it's that in Albury. And I mean, they just know how to put on a show.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're my picks. I would say the Newcastle Falcons, Sydney Comets in the women, and the Albury Wodonga Bandits and the Canberra Gunners in the men's competition are my personal games of the week.
Well, Falcons Comets is also the KO Freebies game of the week.
Ah, well, there you go. I'm onto something. I do make some sense sometimes.
Most of the time, Squid.
Most of the time, I hope so. And just before we go, we better ask about your jersey of the week hanging in the background.
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's just Jazz Borcadilla's jersey from St. Mary's.
Oh, just that.
Yeah.
Have you featured that one before?
I don't care if I have. I don't have 3 seasons worth of jerseys. Well, I was just poking through my wardrobe and found it and thought I'd put it up. So there you go. That's Jazz Borcadilla's jersey from St. Mary's, which she gave to me when I went to visit her in 2017.
Beautiful. But to be fair, your TCU t-shirt was probably just as appropriate for today's episode, given the March Madness that's happening at the moment. So you still get a big tick. All right, so that's more or less the episode. That was our final episode showcasing the rosters for 2025. As I mentioned earlier in this episode, we will be resuming our regular programming from next week as round 1 tips off. So we're going to continue with a game review, some very quick game previews, and what else do we do? All-Star 5. We do a bit of news and gossip when we can. We do an interview of some kind. I usually say athlete interview, but I think this season we're going to be doing athletes and coaches and perhaps trying out some other ideas as well. So I'll just say interviews broadly. What else do we like to showcase, Lockie, on our regular shows?
I think that's enough.
Yeah, I think that's enough. I think that's plenty. So yeah, as always, remember we like to live stream these episodes now, brand new for us as season 3. But you can see recordings of our episodes on our Instagram page at eScottGame as a very long Instagram reel. But you can also find the recordings on YouTube. At eScottGame also has a YouTube channel, and you can also find us on Facebook. But if you want to listen to us on your commute to work or your commute to training, just like Georgia Nowak does, you can still find our episodes in audio-only formats on the likes of Spotify and Apple and Google Play, etc. So we're everywhere. You just got to find us. And as always, if you've got any news or gossip or someone in the league that you would perhaps like us to try and interview during the season, or you just want to say hello, you're welcome to send us a message directly on our Instagram page. But otherwise, Lockie, what's the parting message that we like to tell our beloved fans?
Don't sleep on the East.
Very good, my friend. All right.